Hello everyone, welcome to For His Namesake, and welcome to God in Our Stories, where we are going to continue with another story. This is a true story, and it's called Jungle Tracks. And this is one of my stories. One of the unique activities that my family and I participated in while living in Indonesia was hash runs. Although hash refers to illegal drugs, these runs had nothing to do with that. Instead, these hash runs were jungle runs with various trails to follow. The trails were marked with different color flags. Only one trail would be the correct one, the one that would lead everyone to the finish, where a large wooden keg and some park benches would be. A whole bunch of families would gather at a meeting point, ready, dressed in t-shirts, shorts, and proper shoes for running through all kinds of terrain, although I did see a few people wearing flip-flops. Since mosquitoes were everywhere, we sprayed ourselves with repellent. Malaria is a common disease there, and so, in addition to protecting ourselves with mosquito spray, we had already been taking preventive medication against this fatal disease. Applying sunscreen on us was also necessary, though not everyone did this, and oftentimes they were as red as boiled crabs by the time we were done with the hash runs. We also carried either bottles of water with us or canteens full of boiled and cooled water, as the water there was not safe for drinking. Other things such as first aid kits, snake bite kits, and other necessities were also placed into everyone's small backpack. Each family member was responsible for their own backpack of essential items to bring. Each family was given a new last name. For examples, the leaders would look at my family and see that I had very long hair, and therefore gave us the last name of Locks. Each family member was also given a new first name. I was named Locks, Long Locks. My mother was named Goldilocks for her blonde hair. My father was mostly bald, and he was named Baldylocks. The leaders didn't know what to call my younger brother, so they named him Orlocks. I think that name just came up as the leaders were debating if my brother should have one name or the other. Once all the hashers had checked in and a final roll call was done, then the rules and regulations were administered. For instance, one of the rules was that each family member had to stick with her own family. This was especially crucial to keep a better eye on really young children. I remember children as young as 5 years of age amongst us. Another rule was not to linger anywhere in the jungle, but to keep going. If younger children got tired of walking, a parent or older sibling could carry the child on his or her back. Pulling children in a wagon was not ideal, since the jungle had a lot of thick and intertwining shrubs and tall grasses, plus the trails did not have smooth ground, but rather uneven and rugged terrain. One thing to note is that the years in which my family and I went on these runs, there were no cell phones. They did not yet exist. Besides, even if they did, the jungle was so dense that it would be impossible for any signal to get through. Having shared that, it would have been terrible if anyone were to get lost, especially since the only way of letting anyone know of their whereabouts would be to yell for help. More on this later in the story. After the rules and regulations were given, the leaders gave a hand motion as to when it was time to go. My brother was very athletic, and I could tell he wished he could run with his friends' family who were fast runners. However, my brother had to stay with my parents and I. Although my parents were in shape and exercised daily, they preferred to do a combination of jogging and walking. I liked jogging, and I will never forget the time a rather long and thick snake slithered right underneath my missed step. Someone behind us who saw the snake said that it was probably a spitting cobra. Yikes! I was thankful to God that I had not actually stepped down on the snake, or else I would have had more than been likely been attacked with its very fatal venom. My family and I enjoyed listening to and observing the wildlife surrounding us throughout our journey. In addition to several different species of exotic and beautiful birds to hear and see, one very notable sound was that of the hornbill. This is a very large black and white bird with a bright yellow neck. and a crescent-shaped yellow bill. They are shy birds and therefore not easily seen by humans. However, they have distinct sounds that they make, one of which sounds like a lion roaring. In the rare event that we did get to see these majestic birds, it sure was a sight to see. While we enjoyed listening to all the jungle sounds around us as we were running, or walking, the terrain on which we had to run on and walk on was quite challenging at times. There would be rather large tree limbs to climb over, tall sharp grasses that could easily cut our skin, thorny bushes to get past, and a certain vine plant that intertwined with other plants and made it difficult for us to navigate through. Participating in these hash runs after a heavy monsoon rain was especially messy, and it took everyone much longer to get done with the hash run because there would be muddy areas to get through, and there were creeks that now looked like small still water swamps. There were two choices on how to cross over from one side of the water to the other side. We could either find a large tree log that extended over the water and which we could balance ourselves on as if walking on a tightrope, or we could wade or sometimes swim through the murky water, taking our chances with the possibility of a fish wriggling by, or worse, a snake slithering by. In these waters, there was also an abundance of leeches. These are black, 1-inch looking creatures that latch on human skin and suck blood. Gross! Most of us hashers didn't want to take their chances in the water, and we did our best to balance on the log. Thankfully, back in that day, I had a very good balance and I was quite agile, but I still prayed to God for my family and I to make it across the water, while carefully walking on the log. A few athletic families ran across the log without falling in, and unfortunately, there were a few families who were either afraid of heights or had some other personal reason why they decided to wade or swim through the swampy water. And these poor people ended up having leeches attached to their legs and arms, as the water oftentimes was waist deep. The one mammal we all enjoyed seeing in the dense jungle were the gibbons. These are small apes, only about 26 inches in height, with long arms and no tail. They usually sat high up in tall trees, but would sometimes climb down to lower branches to look for insects closer to the ground. It was fun watching them swing from one branch to another. They made the cutest sounds, something like this. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then they would go back down to a really sad sound. Ooh, ooh, ooh. My biggest fear of going on these hash runs was the possibility of encountering a tiger. The leaders assured us everyone that Sumatran tigers are generally shy and avoid humans for the most part. The only time anyone might see a tiger is if they had gone directly into a tiger's habitat or home, which would be deeper in the jungle. Nevertheless, my family and I were still a bit uneasy, as my mother and I had seen what looked like tiger tracks once at a waterhole. Thankfully, though, we never saw a tiger at any time when we participated in these jungle runs. Remember earlier in the story when I mentioned that the only way to let others know if we had lost our way was to yell? And then I said more on that later? Well, there was one incident my family and I had heard of where a few mischievous adults had gone running away from the trails and had gotten lost deep in the jungle. It became particularly nerve-wracking for all the hashers when nightfall was getting close and still no sign of these people. I kept praying not only for their safety and for them to return, but that they would not encounter a tiger. A couple of leaders and a handful of others went to look for the missing hashers. After a little while, here came the lost ones. Yay! God had answered my silent prayers. Once everyone had been accounted for, it was time to sing the traditional hash song for each person, one at a time, according to families. All the hashers had to stand in a large circle that had a large wooden keg filled with beer in the center. Next to it was a chair for the designated hasher. The leaders would call out our given hash run last name, and then that individual would sit down on the chair. A leader would have a large beer mug that he would dip into the filled keg and then scoop out enough beer to fill up that mug. With the exception of children, it was then expected that each family member drink all of the beer in the mug, while everyone else was singing the traditional Hasher song, which went like this. So, pretending they're singing to me now. Here's to Long Lock, she's true blue. She's a Hasher through and through. She's a misfit, so they say, and she won't get to heaven. It doesn't matter what you say. Drink it down, 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 and so forth. And they would keep singing down, 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 down until either I had drunk all my beer, or whoever was supposed to drink beer next, or if I had thrown it on top of my head, or if I had thrown it behind my back. However, if we threw it behind our back or we threw it on top of our head, that was a penalty. And the leaders, along with everyone else, would say, boo, boo, boo. And then we would be penalized and we'd have to do either pull-ups or push-ups or sit-ups or something like that. And since I didn't like to do any of those, I made sure that I drank every ounce of that beer, even though I hated the taste. While I didn't enjoy participating in the Hasher songs, I did enjoy running with my family through one of God's amazing creations, the jungle. Each monthly hash run brought new and different challenges, as well as surprises. These runs are forever etched in my memory. Well, I hope you enjoyed this unique story, and may God bless you. Bye-bye.